Okay, so welcome to this video, which is the video introducing your first application exercise. And in this, we're going to do our first look at our first data science project, where we will make, you will make your first data visualization or data viz. So an application exercise, what that means is that this is a little exercise for you to do that is not compulsory. We don't require you to do this. We strongly recommend that you do this because we think that these exercises are going to be useful in giving you some practice working with RStudio, but you don't have to hand it in. You don't have to submit it. We're not going to grade it. It's not going to count in any way towards your mark for this module. You have two options for this one. We know that a lot of people will want to look at coronavirus data because it's really obviously one of the data focused things that's really in the news at the moment. So we've got an option there for you to have a look at, but we also know that some people, and I think I might be one of those, who want to get away from thinking about COVID every once in a while. So we've also got the option of looking at the data set to do with the United Nations, that's the one that you saw in the previous video. So I put the instructions up of how to do this application exercise on the screen, or how to access it at least. I'm going to put these ones up. These are the ones for the UN project, and these are the ones for the COVID project. I'm going to leave those just on the screen for now while I'm talking, and I'll let you pause the video if you do want to follow those there. You can also access the slides. I'll tell you how to do that in a sec. But I'm going to take you through how to do it myself. I'm going to walk you through an example in this video. So if you're watching the video, don't worry about taking all that down. What I will say is we're going to use two different things for this. We're going to use for this course. We're going to use GitHub and we're going to use RStudio Cloud. So RStudio Cloud is an online system for working with RStudio, which is, as we said in the last video, an integrated development environment for the programming language R. You'll get used to the distinction between those. And the other website is something called GitHub. Now, Git is a system of what's known as version control, which is the way that we keep track of changes to documents. It's very good for collaborative working. It's very good for maybe people working on different bits of a document or project and putting them together later. It's really useful. And because it's good practice generally, we're going to be working with that very much in this course. GitHub, as I say, is a website that provides us with sort of cloud-based and easy access to Git. And we're going to talk through how we use that very shortly. So let's go and do that in a second. But firstly, I'm going to note that the first step on these instructions is go to RStudio Cloud and make sure that you are in the IDS 2021 space. So one of the instructions that you'll have found on Learn, hopefully, is that in order to take part in this course, you need to go to set up an account with RStudio Cloud. I'm going to assume you've done that. And I'm going to assume what you've also done is gone on to Learn and clicked on the link on Learn. Learn is the virtual learning environment for the university. And there's a private link in there that you can click on in order to get into a course space. So I'm going to assume you've done that. I'm also going to assume you've set up an account on GitHub, which is the website github.com, and told us your username. The username bit isn't as important for doing this application exercise, but because in this one, we're just going to copy something. You're not actually going to be sending anything back. But we'll assume you've done those two things. Unfortunately, I can't put the link to RStudio Cloud on this video because that needs to be kept internal to the university. But if you were to Learn, you'll find that. So we'll assume you've done that, and then I'll show you in a second what RStudio Cloud looks like. Okay, so I've now clicked over to RStudio Cloud. I'm logged in here using my fake student account under the name Rosalind Franklin, who was one of the discoverers of the structure of DNA. And one thing you'll notice here is that down the left-hand side, I've got your workspace, and I've also got IDS 2021. And that's really important. That means that the fact that I can see this, and University of Edinburgh there, means that I have joined the course space via the link that's on Learn You really need to make sure then that you've clicked on this, that this is selected, that it's grayed, sort of backgrounded in grey, because if you haven't done that, then you'll be using the sort of very limited project time you have with a free account. So by doing this, you're within the space for the university, and you'll have the amount of sort of computing time that you need to do the project. What you then need to do is, so assuming you've set everything up there, you then need to navigate to, there was a link on the slides. If you open the slides, you can see that, but you want to go to this page here. This is the example for the UN votes. I'll go and do the one for the COVID votes and COVID statistics in a second. And most likely you'll see either mine or David's name at the top here, or username at the top here. So what I'd like you to do is, if you scroll down, well, you can copy it from the address bar, or you can copy it from here. I'm going to copy it from here, and go over to our Studio Cloud. And we just click the drop-down menu here next to New Project, and click on New Project from Git Repository. And I want you to paste that into there. Oops, I've got a stray open bracket. Let's get rid of that. Make sure this option's ticked. This says Add Packages from the base project. And I need to click OK. And it's going to take a little while to load everything. You're going to see now for the first time what my RStudio Cloud layout looks like. I'll talk through a little bit of that as well. So yep, that's just taking a little while. Cool, that's come through. So if we have a look here, this is an RStudio Cloud workspace. You'll notice the project name at the top. And firstly, you'll see this sidebar is still here, the one that says IDS 2021. We can close that, click on that little X there. And that's probably a sensible thing to do, just to give you some more screen space now that we know that we're in the right area. And we'll see this. So the first thing that the instructions, or the next thing that the instructions ask you to do, is to click on unvotes.rmd. And it pops up this pane here. So we've now got 4 panes. So the top left one, you can rearrange these, but the top left one in this view, in the default view, is for our what we call an R Markdown file. So this is where we put some text analysis of our code and our code itself. The bottom right is what's called the console. So the console is where instructions are sent to R and sent back. Don't worry too much about that for today. We're not really going to use that today. And the bottom left, you can see some files. These are not files on your computer. If you opened RStudio on your computer, this would just show you sort of Windows Explorer or Finder or whatever is used to look, or on Linux, you know, to look through files. And the top right is some other stuff, which we're not going to talk about too much. Except say, you'll notice there's one that says Git here, and that appears because we opened this from a GitHub repository. Now, we have this option to push. We're not going to touch that today, but that's what you're going to use later to send things back. We're going to commit and push. As I say, not going to talk through this right now, because we're not going to do that today. Just bear in mind that's there. If you try and push with this, it will not work, because for the purpose of this video, this is an application exercise that is a GitHub repository that's shared by everybody. So if you pushed, it would spoil it for everybody else, because they would see your answers. Don't worry if you do accidentally click it, it won't do anything, because we haven't given edit access to everybody else on this one. So the first thing it asks us to do is to click knit. And actually I'm going to make one change before I click knit. I'm going to go here and I'm going to click preview. So this was the little cogwheel icon was just there. And I'm going to click preview in viewer pane. What it's going to do is that when I click knit, instead of the output, the result of that popping up as a new window, it's going to pop up down at the bottom right on this viewer tab. So I'll click knit now, and this might take a second to work. And there we go, it's worked. So you can see here, this is something like what you saw in the last video. So we've got some text and we've got some code. And so the next thing it asks me to do is to change my name at the top. and knit again. So I'll do that. I'm going to skip the knitting step just for now because each knit takes a little bit of time. This is what's called a YAML at the top. We'll talk about what that means later, but you can think of it as sort of the metadata about the file, so things like its name and its author. And it also tells us to change the country names to those that we're interested in. And I'm not going to do that because if I do that, it would give away how to do the exercise. So I'm going to make some other change instead. So at the end of the introduction, I'm just going to type a new line, and I'm going to put this is a test. And I'm now going to click knit. And again, this is going to take a little while to work. But you'll notice now my name has changed at the top, and this is a test appears down there. So let's undo that. Oh, I can leave my name. One thing of this as well, each time you click knit, it automatically saves the file, but I really recommend you, because RStudio Cloud does not, and RStudio in general, does not auto-save. So I really recommend as you're working, you either knit frequently or at least just either click on that little save icon or press Ctrl+S or Command+S on your keyboard. Please save things as you're going along. Okay, so that is the UN votes one. I'm just going to talk about the other one. So the other one is at a different URL, so I'm just going to go there. So we've gone there. I skipped out my getting there. So again, we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to copy and paste the URL. We're going to go back to RStudio Cloud. I'll just go back out to my version of the IDS workspace. I'm going to click new project from Git repository, paste in, get rid of that stray bracket again, and click OK. Now, this will deploy. And again, this takes a little while. Don't worry about that. Bear in mind, everything here is going on RStudio's computer, so this shouldn't depend on the power of your computer. You shouldn't need a super powerful computer to run any of the code for this course. Again, it asks us to open the COVID RMD file, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to knit it. I'll first make that change again to preview in viewer pane and click knit. And this again takes a little while, but it appears down at the bottom right here. And we can see that it's all worked. So there you go. Those are the two options for the first application exercise. You can look at both if you want to, if you're really keen. We'd really strongly recommend that you look at least one of these. They're going to ask you to do roughly the same thing, so don't worry about doing both if you aren't super keen. But they are both interesting data sets, and it is nice to have a look at them. We really recommend you do at least one of them, though. If you want to ask for help with these, feel free to do so on Piazza. So good luck, and we'll see you in the next video, which will be David talking to you instead of me. So I'll pass over to David.